Ladies and gentlemen, today is July 25th, 2013. And okay, I'm going to ditch that accent right now. This is the KNKL show, day 91, episode 91, where we learn to be better artists. I'm your host, Kienan Lafferty, and this is continued 2, right? Because we are going to be continuing the work on the Emma comic that you, the people out there in the audience, chose for yourselves, right? You chose your fate, so there's no turning back now. And we're going to be jumping back into that as usual, all right? So just for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time today, let me catch you up on what happened while you were gone. I created 3 sets of thumbnails, or 3 layouts for what I wanted the comic cover of issue 2 to possibly be. And then you guys got to choose, and you picked number 1. So we were working on that yesterday. And what we have today, I will show you right here. This is where we currently are. We have laid in all of the detail of the bikes. Really happy with the way that all of this is going. I surprised myself when I drew these bikes. I was like, dang, those things actually look pretty dang good. Like, apparently the stuff that Iron Stylist taught me when I was working at Riot really paid off, because he's super good at drawing stuff in perspective and robots and all that stuff. So thank you to Michael Marino, aka Iron Stylist. I love you more than ever. And let's go ahead and cue up the time lapse, because I like to catch you guys up on all the work that I did throughout the day. And yeah, let's go ahead and get that started right now, because we got maybe about 5 minutes of footage. So yeah, I'll just kind of talk about my thought process, and really this is what the purpose of doing these dailies in a row is, right? It's like I work live. You guys can ask me all the questions that you want about my process, and really I just want to take a picture from the very beginning, right? From its very beginning, the conception of the baby, right? To the birthing of the, oh, okay, we're not even, that's a terrible analogy. Or from the initial sketch to the final product, right? That's where we're going. So let's go ahead and take a look over here, and you can see what I'm doing right here. You'll notice that as I draw in these bikes, a big thing that I'll do is I'm actually drawing most of the bike before I put the guy on top of it. And this really helps me to just get the perspective down and get all of the shapes and ellipses in the right place. And I'm going to check the chat over here to make sure everything is working out right. Okay, because sometimes the mic breaks and I sound like a freaking crazy bumblebee or something, right? So yeah, it seems like everybody's here today. I'm glad you guys are joining me once again live. It's really nice. People on YouTube, maybe not so lucky. Maybe if you come here next time, you can influence what's happening over here. But yes, that is another conversation for another time. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to this. I redrew that boot that was touching the little spoke on the side there, and I turned it into a spike, right? Because that makes it even more manly and badass. So we gotta have that. I decided to go the extra mile and try out some tire details, right? Put on some tire tread. And I wanted to make it look cool, but at the same time, like, I wanted to put detail, but it still had to read as semi-simplified. So I was pretty happy with the way that that turned out. It looked like a cool kind of all-terrain motorbike there. And what's really strange is that drawing bikes this way is actually not that hard at all, because it's like once you get the wheel done, that back wheel that's like in your face and like the little things that connect it, you draw some pipes and you draw a little exhaust pipe coming at you. It's actually, there's not much more to draw of the bike. It's actually much easier to draw it like that than it is in the profile, and you got to get all the little details and stuff. So next up, what we're moving on to is this really, really close tire. And a trick that I've talked about many times that really, really helps with my perspective is making sure that wherever your horizon line is, you'll notice that this is where the horizon line is, right? So look at how it lines up perfectly with the center of this tire and the center of that tire, right? So naturally, even this tire that's close to us, that's super, super close to us, the horizon line is still going to hit the same area of that tire right in the center. Interesting. Is it not? Let's continue. So yeah, so for those of you who are ever, I mean, I didn't learn that trick until literally last year. I wish I would have known it earlier, because I was always struggling with just like putting together these pictures and trying to put in perspective, and especially with vehicles and just characters, it just looked always just something was off, and that was what was happening. My eyes would see it, and it's like the perspective is wrong on this, right? The horizon line should be hitting the same height, right, on all these characters across the plane, right, across the plane of the picture. So that really, really helps out. And see, even this picture, or even this bike, I actually resized it, moved it up a little bit so that the middle line would go right through the middle of the tires. And you can see right there, see, I've basically drawn the entire bike before I put the guy on. And it's really, really nice to just kind of do that. And another thing that has really helped me out is I drew this little spoke on so I know exactly where his foot is going to go. And it seems like you almost like put the... Before, what I was doing was I was almost drawing the person and thinking about how the bike would fit around him. But now what I'm doing is drawing the bike first, right? The rigid metal thing that doesn't bend, and then putting the soft, fleshy, gelatinous man on top of it. And just seems to work out a lot better that way. So, oh, people are asking about references. Yes, I did use a lot of references. In fact, let me pull those up right now. I pulled up a lot of references for this. And let me go ahead and get those. I'll just show you a few of them. Like for these angles with the bike, you know, like going far into the distance and like this tire's like straight up on you, I use something like this, right? And there's still a little bit of like fudging around with it, but what was really important to notice here was like the relationship between the tire and then, you know, just like the parts that would connect to it, the little exhaust pipe and things like that, right? But there's another layer to that as well. There's also like the style. Like you'll notice that chain right there. It is this chain right here on this bike. And this is actually like a model bike. It's not even really functional. It's actually more of an art piece. But I really like how it looks kind of like pieced together. And it just has like a cool kind of post-apocalyptic feel to it. Except it's really clean, but you know, just imagine this kind of design just kind of dirtied up, if you will. So things like that, I just look online for, you'll notice I'm going to be drawing some ATVs and like trailers later. All I do is I just simply look up ATV back, right, in Google, and it'll pull up, you know, all kinds of different styles of ATVs. You can choose what you want. Same thing with like tire styles. I wanted them all to be kind of like different tire styles because I wanted these guys to look like they had grabbed these bikes just from anywhere, right? They don't necessarily have like one type of bike that they ride. Because, you know, they're scavengers. They just find it and they'll work on it, they'll change it, and then they'll just add it to the pack. So, yeah, I think references really, really help out. Here I'm drawing the ATV, and you can see just like the placement of those little bars and stuff, even though you can't even see the full thing, just like having those lines in the right place, I feel like really helps just show that there's another vehicle back there. And a better example of this is going to be the dune buggy that I draw in just a minute. So, yeah. For those of you watching, saying you're not getting sound, just try reloading the stream, or check the little volume bar should be down over there. And if that doesn't work, then you might have to just wait and watch this on YouTube. Sorry about that. So anyway, here's the dune buggy, and again, I typed in dune buggy back. Imagine that, and it gives you a picture of the back of a dune buggy. So, and then it just gives me a good idea of where to place the bars and, you know, just stuff like that, like the little shocky things that sit on the edges and hold the wheels in place. There's all these little details that you notice will go into the vehicles that normally I wouldn't have noticed before. But I really wanted to kind of kick up the detail in these bikes for the cover shot, as opposed to the treatment that they receive in the book, right? But strangely enough, after doing this, I was like, this actually didn't take that much more time to put this detail into the bikes. And I'm thinking because of that, I want to step up the level of detail that I do on the vehicles and stuff in the next issue. Because it didn't take that much time. I might not do it to exactly this quality here, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be putting a little bit more detail into the vehicles here. So I just want to make sure that the camera isn't getting in the way of anything. If it does get in the way of what I'm working on, I'm going to take myself off. But it looks like everything's okay. Looks like everything's okay. So yeah, now we're moving into the final little bit here. This is the zombies. At first I was thinking, oh, I'm going to draw them, but then I was like, nah, let's just go ahead and make it a shape, and then we'll just take out the eyes and the teeth. I really like that. I like that treatment for zombies a lot. And then I just draw in a couple hands. You know, the good old stuff. Because this is really just supposed to serve as a backdrop for the title to sit over top of. And yeah, then I just throw in a couple little squares to represent the IPC code or the barcode. And I separated the bikers from the back and put the title on there just as sort of a mock-up thing, just so I can see how this thing is going to come together. And that's where we are, guys. That's where we currently are. So let's go ahead and jump right into Photoshop. And you're in for a special treat today because you get to watch me do the most amazing part of drawing ever, right? Of this comic. And that is cleaning up the lines. Wow. Yeah. It's not exactly going to be the most fun thing to watch, but you guys said you wanted to see the whole process, so we're going to go ahead and get into that. So in the meantime, I would invite you, because this is all very, this is a very methodical technique, to put it lightly. It takes a little bit of time, but it is worth explaining a little bit, I would say. But any questions that you have, please cast them over the castle walls. Today's constant catapults. So yeah, I'll take a glance over at the chat every now and then, see if there's any questions, and I'll answer them for you. In the meantime, just kick back, relax, and you can watch me clean up these lines. Alrighty then. Alrighty then. Okay, so let's start with, since you saw me working on the bikes and all that stuff, let's start with Emma and Tank up here. Let's go ahead and get them taken care of. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this sketch that was behind everything. Right, the initial sketch. Let me actually take all this stuff away. So this initial sketch, we don't need this anymore, really. It's good for values and stuff, so I'm definitely going to hang on to it, because at the end, I want to be able to look at the, especially with just like the darks and like this little lightness that's happening down here, like on the ground, and the lines that are going through here. This is really good for just like that feeling, right? And I definitely want to keep this around for that. But as far as cleaning up the lines, we don't need it. So we're going to say ta-ta for now. TTFN, as Tigger would say. And we're left with these things, these cleaned up sketch lines. Now what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be going in and, once again, I'm going to pick the ink brush for erasing for now, because I want to make sure that wherever I erase, it's just like a clean line, right? And this is kind of where I feel that artistic paths would split here. Because some artists like to take this and they like to, again, reduce the opacity of it, reduce the opacity of all of it, and then make a final line layer, right? And this is what I would do if I was actually working on the comic. But because I'm going for a mix between a comic book and kind of more a painterly approach, I'm not going to do that, because I like a little bit of the messiness of the lines kind of being retained in there. And I really hate doing final line art, so that's my excuse. It keeps the purity of the line art in there, right? So yeah, basically, as you can see, the line, basically the way that the line art brush or the ink brush erases is there's no gray area. It's either black or it's white, right? So you erase and it takes it completely away. And this really helps with not having any of those little artifacts laying around, you know, when you're done with it. You know, like these little things. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a really, really low contrast thing that just would add some unwanted texture to Emma's face. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And that's what we call an artifact in the professional world. Or I don't know, maybe we do. Sounds kind of cool. Artifact is too cool of a word for something like that. It should just be called like a blotch or a blorch. A blorch. Can we get those blorches cleaned up off her face, please? Thank you. Alright, so we're just cleaning up the blorches here. And yeah, like I said, it's going to be really, really fun watching this all day. I'm probably going to go for about, and today's show is probably going to be about half an hour, because I don't want to bore you guys too much. But I'm actually thinking about doing a show tomorrow. Usually I don't like to stream on Fridays because I like to relax, you know, get ready for the weekend and all that. But I am going to be working on this tomorrow anyway, so I figured I might just have you guys come along, right? I might have you guys just tune in tomorrow, and I can catch you up with the work that I did for that day, you know, as usual, per usual. And yeah, we'll just have ourselves a good old Friday secret stream. Friday Emma secret stream. You gotta say it like that. Alright. So, yeah, but I've really, really enjoyed making this cover so far. It's been really, really fun. Oh, one thing that I do have to say, though, is even though I'm erasing with this ink brush, I am drawing back in with the renderer brush because I just like it. I don't like putting the lines back in like perfectly, like all line, right? I was about to say black, but this isn't technically black. Oh, by the way, that reminds me of a question somebody was asking yesterday. And I said I wanted to catch up on the questions that people asked yesterday because I was bombarded before the stream ended. And I need to answer those. Unperceived Malignity was asking, do you prefer drawing with a tablet or a pencil and paper? And that is a great question. I personally like drawing more with the tablet because it's a lot cleaner, and I don't have to worry about like smudging anything with my hand. I love the fact that I can work, down here with the stylus and look straight ahead, right? It's really good for my posture as opposed to like doing one of these things. I got my book and I'm like this, right? Drawing stuff. So, yeah, I think it's better for my posture. I like the fact that it's cleaner, a little bit easier, but I gotta admit, like nothing really beats just the organic feeling, right? The natural feeling of using pencil and paper and just sitting down, especially when you're traveling. Like I love it when I was working for Riot and they would send us on these trips, right? These freaking awesome trips, like to San Francisco for the massive black art workshop. And we'd be staying in the hotels, and you guys can even go back because I actually did dailies back then. And I would be filming with my phone. I would literally stick my phone on the edge of the table, right? So it's just hanging off the little camera bit right here. It's just hanging off the edge of the table so it could film me. And then I'd put my sketchbook on the floor, and I'd crawl underneath the table and draw right there. And I'd give a tutorial like that. And to be honest, that's like one of my fondest memories. Like I really like doing stuff like that, and I like having the chance to work with physical media and give tutorials in that way. So yeah, I definitely think that each has its pros and cons, but just because of sheer um, maybe laziness and what's the word, convenience. I just like, now that I have access to a tablet and a computer regularly, I like to do it. At least until the radiation that's being put off by the tower destroys my brain cells, right? That's why it's always good to take breaks. All right, next one. Katie Monster, I don't know if she's on right now, but she's asking great questions here. She's asking, what type of art school would you suggest to go to when you want to do things like you did with Riot? And I always get questions about school and stuff like that, and a lot of you know now that I'm self-taught. But I think that really the best thing to do is talk to people, first of all, that have gone to a school and said they had a good experience with it. That's always a good sign. I don't know if I'd trust, like, because every school says like, oh hey, we did all this. This guy went here. Tim Burton went to Cal Arts and he went on to make all this great stuff. So you should come here, right? But really prestigious schools and stuff like that, I don't know. I don't buy it, right? I don't buy it because when you're an artist, it's all about what you can do. And I'm not disrespecting people with credentials at all. I think they're really important. But for me, it just comes down to what can you do. So any school that's going to teach you the practical things that you're going to have to learn on the job. And this doesn't just have to do with art. This is how to deal with people, right? This is how to work as a team. This is how to take feedback and give feedback. These are the types of things that you really, really want to look out for and things that you want to learn because they're a big part of working in the industry. And they play a big part in, just what you do, right? Do you want to just sit around and do art every single day? You want to do the same thing every single day? Or do you want to be given more responsibility and lead a team and try things, be given the responsibility to take risks and do brand new things, Like those are the things that I wanted to do. I'm not saying that I quit because I wasn't able to do that. I quit, and I've said this before, the reason I quit Riot was because it was mostly because of just the repetitiveness of the day-to-day thing going on, right? It's like wake up every day, sit in the traffic on the 405, which is unbearable, wait, for like an hour and a half to 2 hours just to get to work, just drive Santa Monica to get there. And then, it's just, there was a whole combination of things. And it wasn't even really just the work, right? The work actually I really enjoyed, and I loved being with my coworkers and all my friends. But the biggest thing I think that really pushed me over the edge was that I had this idea, right? I had the idea to make this comic. And I asked myself, if I don't do this right now, when am I going to do it? You know? So I was like, I think that right now is the time to take a big chance like this, right? It's time to just take a chance and see if I can make something, see if I can start something. And the worst that could happen is I just make a comic, right? And then I have a comic, and that's really cool. And then I can always go back to working in the industry. It's a lot easier, you know. They say once you get your foot in the door, it's a lot easier after that point because you make so many connections, right? You make so many connections, you know people, you've learned so much from all the other awesome artists that you worked with, and all that good stuff. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling, so I'm going to cut myself off there. But yeah, in short, go to whatever school you feel really has what it takes, you know, to give to you, right? It's going to teach you the practical skills, right? Not about like, hey, let's learn about art history and study all of these, you know, study why this person was great and all this crap. You know, you want to learn about presentation. You want to learn about lighting. You want to learn about color. You want to learn about focal points. You want to learn about how to draw perspective. You want to learn about composition. You know, all this stuff. And I'm sure they teach all that stuff. I don't think they're like just over there giving art history classes and studying Picasso or anything. But you know what I'm saying. Just do the practical stuff. Anyway, okay, man, that was a mouthful. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Were there any other questions here? Any other questions? I think there are probably some up here. Okay, I'm scrolling up. Scrolling. Locking transparency of the layer. I don't know what that means. Although I do like to do that. I do like to lock the transparency of the layer. Mostly when I'm coloring lines. That's the only time I lock the transparency. But see, basically what I'm doing is, let's go back to what this started as, okay? And this might take us back to way far. Okay, this takes us back too far. But, I mean, even if you compare this, right? That's what the line was, and this is what I'm turning it into. See what I'm doing? So, it's basically kind of cleaner line art, right? And eventually I'll go in and I'll paint this, right? I'll paint it, and I'll probably color these lines and do all kinds of crap to it. But for right now, the most important thing is that I'm just refining it, and I'm not making another layer, doing another line art layer, because that would drive me crazy. But you know the funny thing that I've been thinking about is that I wonder if it actually takes more time to do this, to go through and clean everything up, than it does to actually just make a new layer and just line it. You know what I mean? But the only counter argument that I have against that is that I feel like oftentimes when I do a new line art layer over top of everything, there's just like little subtleties. There's little subtleties in this sketch phase that get taken out when you do a final line art layer. And oftentimes I'll compare this to the old sketch and I'll be like, something was lost. Like this character's face just looks different, right? The emotion was so much better in the sketch, right? If I had just cleaned up the sketch, I feel like I could have preserved that emotion. And the line art is just stiff, you know, it just doesn't look good. So I just ditch it, right? So when I don't have to do another line art layer, I prefer not to. So anyway, let's go ahead. By the way, we are going to have company downstairs, so I apologize if it's going to get kind of loud. My family is watching The Host right now, and they really like to blow the speakers out of the freaking living room. So if you hear random people yelling and talking, that's what it's going to be. But a small price to pay for awesome parents. Small price to pay for awesome parents and step-parents who believe in me and are letting me stay with them for the time being. But anyway. Yeah. So I'm liking this. I'm liking this very much. Very much. Checking over here. Checking stuff over here. Alright. Man, my lips are like super chapped. What's up with that? I need some Burt's Bees. That's what I need. Burt's Bees. Not Ernie's Bees. Burt's Bees. Ernie's Bees, I would not trust. Alright. Just kind of cleaning that up. I like Emma's cute face. I like Emma's cute face. The last issue had Emma's pissed off face, and now we have Emma's cute face. So, nice. Nice. Let's good to throw in a little bit of a variation there. Contrast. Variety. But yeah, I'm liking this a lot. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this down. I'm going to close this really quick and reopen it. So that way we can compare with where we started and where we end up. Okie artichokes. People are like, Emma is staring into my soul. Yes, that's what she does. That's what she does well. Okay. Oh, and another thing that I like to do is actually, I should have done this before I started, but I'm going to duplicate this sketch layer, right? That way I can go back and check it. I hope that made sense. I'm just duplicating what I'm working on right now so I can go back and check and make sure that there's, like, especially in the faces and the eyes, the slightest changes make a huge difference. Huge, huge difference. So I always like to just compare what I do with what I have just currently done. So let's go ahead and continue. Continuing. People are over here saying, Toothpaste thought it was Friday. Getting ahead of yourself, Toothpaste. But good news, I was telling everybody about how I'm thinking about streaming tomorrow. Thinking about it. Don't count on it, but think about it. I think it'd be really cool. Especially since we're doing, like, ideally I wanted to get pretty close to done with this cover by the end of the week. But it looks like after this, after we get the lines cleaned up, I'm going to be doing masking. And then technically after that, it's not too much work. After masks are done, it's just throwing in colors, doing a little bit of painting, and then kind of the final adjustments and painterly strokes, whatever type of treatment I want to do on this thing. Probably going to do something similar to what I did with this one. You know, like how you have like clean shapes and then the background is kind of a little bit more painterly, how you got these zombies and stuff going on here. Probably something like that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm thinking it would be cool to like hold the, like if this one, the one that is just about to get done, you know, you hold it up to this one and it just looks like it belongs. You know what I mean? So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Yes, unfortunately it is Thursday. I wish it was Friday too. I wish it was Friday. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. When you're working for yourself, you actually find out that you like weekdays because it's like, yes, another day where I get to work. You know, because weekends I really like to try to relax and take a break and rest. You know what I mean? Because I really believe that rest is a very, very important thing to do, especially when you're not only just on your own projects, but looking back, I realize that a lot of the reasons why artists get burnt out, not just with their own projects, but in the industry, is because they don't take proper breaks, and sometimes they're not even given the opportunity to take proper breaks. You know, they're just worked ragged, and then, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's just, it's tough. It's tough out there. It's tough out there, but you got to make sure you're taking care of yourself. That's the main priority. Deadlines, all that crap doesn't matter. The most important thing is that you take care of yourself, because really, at the end of it all, it's all about the work that you put out. And, you know, if you're the guy over there that's just running himself ragged and getting burnt out and you're just getting ticked off and you hate your work, then, you know, you're not going to get fired, or that guy's going to get fired before you, who decides to take care of yourself. You're doing consistent work and it's always good, and your love and passion is always in it. You know what I mean? Like, and even then, it's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have this fear of getting fired when really, it's like, it really takes a lot to get fired. It takes a lot to get fired off of any job, if Riot taught me anything. There's just, you know, I feel like a lot of companies, like, once they got you in there, it's like you're family to them. They're not just going to be like, yeah, well, you're not doing your job anymore. You're not doing as good as we want you to, so we're going to let you go. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, especially Riot. Riot is really cool. Riot is really cool working with people and just talking about, you know, their job experience and making sure that everything is good. I don't know if I'm just naive and, you know, a lot of companies are like that, but something tells me that Riot is something very special. So, yeah, definitely grateful for that. Grateful for that. But yeah, I think it's very important to just, consistency is what it's all about. It's not only about freaking burning the midnight oil at the last possible second. You know, the deadline's coming up and you got to work your butt off. It's also about just having those good habits and being consistent and just constantly doing a good job and knowing what you're capable of. You know, knowing what you're capable of is awesome, and it's fine to stand up for yourself in that regard. It's fine to stand up for yourself. Because if you do it in the right way, oftentimes it gets you a lot of respect, and people really, really admire you. So at least that's how I feel. That's how I feel about people that do stuff like that. So let's go ahead and take care of Emma's nose. Lots of philosophical business matters. I'm just telling myself this stuff. That way, you know, in the future, when I have my own business, I want to make sure that my artists understand the importance of taking breaks and the importance of enjoying the job. You know what I mean? And I think that I can raise a good company with that type of mentality. And really, I want to raise people. Like, if I make a company, I want to raise people not only to have great jobs, but I want to teach them that, hey, look, if you want to make something of your own, if you want to go off and start your own company, you want to do something crazy, then you can do it. Because if somehow I'm able to do it, then I think just about anybody could do it. But yeah, let's save that success story for after I'm a success. Yeah? I've got it all laid out. It's like, yes, this is the speech I will give when Emma has made $1 million and I have the Emma Mobile, right? Even though I don't really want it anymore. But I'll have so much money to be like, yeah, Emma Mobile, why not? Lamborghini Emma Mobile, why not? But yeah, lots of good stuff. Oh yeah, by the way, sorry if I was working on this thing the whole time I was covering it. Yeah, but this is all very methodical stuff. And I guess the good thing about it is that it's really easy for me to talk while I'm doing this. It's good to sit down and have a chat. It's really easy to just chat the day away as I'm working on this type of stuff. And it's working really well. I'm liking that. So see, it's just going from that to that. See? Very, very subtle things happening over here. That to that. And that's basically what we do for the whole page. And actually, it might not take too long. But if you're bored, you don't have any questions, you can go ahead and go walk off a bridge, right? That's something I was talking about with my buddy Brian Hogan. We were like, we should just tell everybody that, you know, if you don't like the show, you can just go walk off a bridge. Right? And I thought that was pretty blunt, but yeah, I guess, yeah, it works. It works. I love walking off bridges. I love walking off cliffs, especially when there's water at the bottom. You know, cliff jumping, bridge jumping. It's pretty dang fun. So yeah, if you don't like it, go jump off a bridge into some water. And hopefully there's no dead bodies at the bottom, because that's creepy. There's like this bridge that's right out back here. You know, I live out in Utah, so there's a lot of farmland around where we live. And just like open mountains, and it's actually a really beautiful place. I like it out here. But there's this bridge, there's this old train bridge, I think, that runs over this little canal that's running through the town. And me and my friends, we used to like to go up there and just jump off the bridge into the water. But what was creepy is there's like scary stories, right? And be like, oh, yeah, didn't you hear that some guy was killed and then he dumped the body in this river, right? So every time I jumped from the bridge into the water, like I was afraid like my toe was going to like go into the eye socket of the skeleton of the guy that was killed there, right? Or he'd come to life and grab me and pull me down to the depths. To the depths. So yeah. Yeah, that's where that reference came from. All references deserve a good story, a good explanation. Anyway. Okay. So what are you guys saying over here? Emma Lamborghini sounds amazing. Now that I say that, I actually want to just like get a picture of a Lamborghini and like make it into an Emma thing. That would be pretty sweet. Big old buttons face on the front. That'd be sweet. Oh, we got a great question coming in from Simon. He's saying, do you ever have moments where it feels like your tolerance for things is dwindling? Oh, that's so funny. My tolerance for things is dwindling. I love that. That's so funny. Yes, I have moments like that all the time. You just get irritable. You just get ticked off for what seems like no reason. Yeah, everybody has days like that. I have days like that constantly. But I think, well, maybe not constantly, but every now and then I have days like that. And I've actually talked about something similar to this on a Thoughtful Thursday. And I've noticed that whenever I feel like my tolerance for things, or I'm just like impatient or kind of irritable, kind of ticked off, but I don't know why, oftentimes it's because there's a lot of little things that have piled up, right? Little things that I want to do, I said I was going to do, or that I need to do, that have now piled up, and they're just kind of sitting in the back of my subconscious, right? I've kind of forgotten about them, but they're still back there, and I know that I need to do them. And this includes things like going to get my car oil changed, doing like cleaning the dishes or sweeping something, doing some chore that I said I was going to do, getting back to a friend that I said I was going to contact that I haven't called yet. There's a bunch of little things. Sending a thank you note to somebody who did something really nice for me, you know, things like that. All those little things just pile up, and I've noticed that when I don't take care of them, that's when I start to just sort of feel weird. I start to feel kind of ticked off and angry for no reason, and I become very, very touchy, I guess you could say. Yeah. But then, now that I know that that's how I feel when I need to take care of things, all I do is I sit down and I write down the list and be like, oh, okay, all right, so little thing number one, I need to make sure I'm doing this. I'm not taking breaks as much as I used to. I'm not getting outside, walking around as much as I used to. I'm not doing all these little things. I make a quick little list, and then I'll take care of a few of them throughout the day. Or I'll take care of all of them if I can, you know, if it's just a bunch of tiny little things. But the point is that I feel like even just once you identify the problem, immediately you start to feel a lot better. And then once you take action and you just take care of those things, right? Take action! Sounds so cheesy saying that. But yeah, once you take care of those things, you'll immediately notice, you'll be like, wow, I feel so much better. And then you immediately go right back to your pleasant little happy mood. Pleasant little happy self. So, anyway. Okay. Next question is coming in. Soid is asking, is it dangerous for a girl to have long hair in a zombie world? Oh, he's referring to Emma's hair. Yes, it is very dangerous to have long hair. Much like in The Incredibles, they talk about the dangers of having the cape, right? It could get sucked up into the jet engine, or your long hair could be grabbed by the zombie, right? But we like to suspend reality a little bit in comic book land. But I mean, I think it would be really cool to have, I was thinking about, there would be, you know, just saying that, it makes me think of something. Like having characters' clothing change. This was actually a topic brought up on the forums about having characters change their clothes, and maybe even like hairstyles and stuff like that. This is something that I really do plan on doing, because I was really inspired by the Scott Pilgrim series, and how he just has these characters just change clothes and change hair and stuff like that just throughout the entire thing. And I just thought that that was so cool, how, I don't know, it just gave like another sense of like believability to these characters. It's like they care about what they wear, they care about how they look, they care about their hairstyle, you know, and they'll actually change these things. And then, you know, usually it's because of something that's happening, right? Like they're going to a party or they're at a dance or something like that. And I really, really liked that. So I'm definitely going to be changing hairstyles. You might be seeing Emma with short hair some point in the comic. I don't know when. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But it is an idea worth entertaining. It is an idea worth entertaining. So thank you, Mr. Soyd. All right. XBLGR is saying, thanks for adding to my fear of deep water. I have that fear too. I am so scared of like water, and just like it's like scary enough when it's a giant body of water and you can't see what's in it and you jump into it, but it's almost even more scary when it's really clear. Like I went to the Bahamas and I was snorkeling around, and the water was just so clear and you could see everything just beneath you. And it was almost just as scary seeing, it was just like some kelp and fish, but it's still just like, ooh, it's like creepy to me. But I like it. I love it. I love scuba diving because I almost feel like I'm facing my fear, right? I'm like diving into my fear. And then oftentimes, once you face your fear, it's not as scary at the bottom. In fact, it can be quite beautiful. Oh, you guys are saying, I'd like to see what happens to the zombie that grabs Emma's hair. Yeah, she'd probably take care of that. She'd probably take care of that pretty quickly. Yes, yes, yes. Mm. Oh, people are talking about it's really cool when the seasons gradually change with a comic too. That's another thing I'm thinking about doing, especially after playing The Last of Us. I love how they just change the seasons and you go through all these just different times of these characters' lives and it's so cool just like seeing this variety and just contrast between, you know, like these city streets and then like the snowy forest. It's really, really cool and I love stuff like that. So that's another thing that's going to be happening in this comic. We're definitely going to be seeing a wide variety of environments and season changes and just climates, and it's going to be really cool. I really think that it's just the sky's the limit, and when your imagination is involved, you can do whatever the heck you want. And I think that's really the biggest, like that's the coolest thing I found about making this comic is that I really like even now it's like looking at what it's become and just these characters that are here, like these all came from my head, you know, like these came from nothing. Like this was nothing and I made it into something. Like that's really, really cool. And I want more people to understand that, you know, you have these ideas in your head too, right? You have these ideas of stories that you could tell, these characters that you could bring to life, whether it's through drawing them in a comic book, if you're crazy enough to do that, or if you just want to like write a story about them, right? You can do that too, and it's actually a lot easier by contrast, I would imagine. But I mean, well, yes and no. I mean, writing a story with words and all that stuff can be just as challenging because you got to worry about all this plot stuff, and you know the actions might not be. You know, you can't show the same actions, you can't show the same settings as you can in a comic where you can literally draw it. So I'm sure it has its challenges as well. But what I'm saying is that I just want people to take their ideas. Like I hope that I can be, if anything, just an example of, you know, if you have an idea, you should just do it, right? If you have an inspiration of something that you wanted to do, you know, like don't wait. Don't wait until the perfect time because it's never going to come. There's never going to come that time where it's like, if I would have just kept doing my thing and it's been like, oh yeah, you know, oh finally, the day I just wake up and it's like, hey, I've been waiting for this day my whole life. Now I get to make my comic, right? That day was never going to come. It was never going to come. So I had to sit down and I had to make it happen. It's funny how this is actually turning into a Thoughtful Thursday. I like this. It's a combination Thoughtful Thursday while I'm working, so it's not quite as boring, right? Hopefully. But yeah, I really want people to stop worrying so much, right? And don't worry about it being perfect either. Because that was another big thing. The reason I started this comic was because it was supposed to be an experimental comic for the second story, right, that I have. It's called Shade, and you guys have seen some of the drawings that I've done of that. But this was meant to be an experimental comic, and my mentality behind it was like, okay, let's get all the mistakes and make all the errors here, learn everything that we can, and then put that into the next comic and make it even better, right? But now, very quickly, just with the work that's gone into it, the story is already shaped up, and it's like a million times better than Shade, you know? The Shade story, by comparison, is like complete Shade. It's lame, it's boring, right? But I'm sure once we put the amount of work that we do, or that we did into this story, Shade is going to be great too. But the point is that just do it, right? Don't wait around for it to be perfect. Don't wait around for the perfect time. This is never going to come. Best thing that you can do is if you have an idea and you have an inspiration, you have to act on it. Okay? And that's it. That's it. Good night, America. I was watching America's Got... Well, I wasn't watching America's Got Talent. My parents were, and freaking Nick Cannon, he's constantly yelling, man. He's got like this yelly voice. I don't know what his deal is. But it was funny just like listening to him yell all night. I mean, I admire his enthusiasm. I do like it, but it is a little annoying. but I'm not saying I can do any better. I definitely couldn't do any better. Alrighty then. Unless they want me yelling like a medieval announcer like I do randomly every now and then. But I don't know if they'd like that. I don't know if they'd really... I don't know if today's audience would bite at that. Oh, so fun. Oh, we've been going for about 45 minutes. All right, guys, we're going to be winding down these last few minutes. I'm going to take any remaining questions that we have here. And, yeah. XBLGR, Xbox Large, is saying Armored Emma. Oh, man, that would be super cool. It would be super cool. Another Last of Us thing. I've been playing the Last of Us multiplayer, and I think it's really cool. Like, when you put the armor on, it's just like pads and helmet, you know, it's like sports gear. I think it's really cool. So maybe there would be something cool like that. I like that a lot. That'd be really sweet. Alrighty then. Oh, Soid is asking, Keenan, do you have in your head the idea for the end of the comic? And why would I, even if I did, I don't know if I can tell you. I do have like some ideas of how it could end. I have a really, really funny idea of how it could end. Like a really, really funny idea of how it could end. But I've told some people about it. Be like, hey, what if it ended like this, right? And they're like, no, don't do that. I was like, but it would be funny. It would be really funny if it ended like that. And they're like, no, don't do that. That's super cheesy. I was like, okay, whatever. We'll see. But my idea for the end of the comic, maybe not so much. I know some things that I want to happen. I know the story arcs that I want to go through. But as far as ending the comic, I really feel like I could go for a long time as far as just like creating stories and be like, oh, hey, well, what if this happens now? And then, you know, this person comes back and then they discover this. And, you know, there's all these things that are just going through my head about how you can just continue to create the story because the characters really themselves. In fact, John Boy Myers, the awesome comic artist who works at Riot Games, he's a mentor and friend of mine, and I just absolutely admire the guy. And he said something to me that I'll never forget. He said that once you have the characters like nailed down for the comic and you give them each unique personalities and just make them likable and just cool, right? Once you have at least 3 characters, it seems like the story is just able to write itself. And you can just keep going and going and going. And I never forgot the way that he put that. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, just make the characters, and then the way that they interact and the way that they just, you could throw any situation at them, and the way that they react to it just writes the story. And I thought that was really, really cool. Kind of a simplistic approach, but I really liked it a lot. Especially for being somebody who doesn't necessarily like to write stories. I like to come up with ideas, but as far as like connecting the dots and like putting the pieces together, I personally don't feel that that is my forte, which is why I like to have other people who are more talented than me at that stuff do it. And yeah, so yeah, I think that's really good. Anyway, I think we're going to end today before I start blabbering on like usual. I'm just going to finish this little fold here for his nose and clean this up. And yeah, that's looking pretty dang good. I'm really happy with that, guys. So it looks like mostly what we did is just cleaned up Tank's and Emma's face. You can see what we started with, and this is what we have now. Told you guys it wasn't going to be too much fun to watch. I mean, look at, there's barely any difference. But in the end, the small differences make the big one. Right? I think I just made that up. I'm sure somebody said that before, but anyway, the small differences make the big one. I like that. All right. We're going to go up and load up epic outro music. Oh, it's already loaded up. Excellent. Excellent. All right, guys. So thank you once again for joining me live on Ustream. People on YouTube, please thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. My name is Kienan Lafferty. I'll see you guys possibly tomorrow. I'll update you on Facebook and Twitter if we're going to do a stream tomorrow. Until then, you guys take care. See ya. Whoa. Let's try that again. There we go.